get started. I think we've given enough time for everybody to make it here from other places, other meetings that they're coming in from. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us for our sixth, that's a kind of a hard word to say, sixth and final LIT Spotlight. LIT stands for Learning Innovation Technology. This is our sixth one of spring 2026. And we anticipate we'll be doing some more in the fall. So if you have something that you would like to share, we would love to hear from you. But we will be hearing today from Vince Hahn. So as you probably knew from the all of our marketing out there, Vince is going to be talking to us about the next generation AI web widget for enterprise training and coaching. So we'll get to that in just a second. I just wanted to briefly, if you've been in these sessions before, this will be nothing new to you, but we are hosting an all-day in-person event here in Southeastern Michigan on May 8th, which we call This Party is Lit. And tickets are available now at torrancelearning.com/lit party. We would love to have you join us. We have a few spaces left for registration, but tickets are being sold and going fast. So if you want to make it up, if you live in the area or drivable distance from Ann Arbor, Michigan, we would love to have you join us. One of the people that is joining us for This Party is Lit is Vince. He's going to be talking to us more about and Gen AI for learning. And this is our whole list of speakers that we have lined up for the day. So we've got, I think it's 15 different presenters that are going to be sharing their learning, innovation, and technology demos and case studies and experiments and fully fleshed out solutions that people have to share with the community. So we're super excited for all of these sessions. The event will be hosted at the University of Michigan in partnership with the School of Education. So we've got a couple of University of Michigan student groups and alumni groups that are going to be sharing what they've been working on as well. So excited to see some of those. Just as a reminder, stay connected with us. You can catch up anytime to recordings, and this session, as it announced to us, is being recorded, and we will be posting that up in the Lit library for anybody that isn't able to watch it live today. And then these are the ways you stay in contact with us. Either sign up for our mailing list at torrancelearning.com/lit or feel free to reach out to us by email. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Vince to share with us what he has today. And I'm not going to read a formal introduction, or bio, but you can go ahead and introduce yourself to us. Thanks, Vince.
Thanks, Meg, and thanks to Jamie. I'm appreciative of the Torrance team. I think this is the whole Lit. It's what a great resource for our industry. Thanks for all your work to put it together, and that's a great. It's an honor to be a part of it. So let me share my screen and let's get going. Just by way of introduction, my name is Vince Hahn. I have been working on AI chatbots and deterministic chatbots to support organizational learning and coaching and training, all sorts of things since we're in our 14th year. So we've been doing this a long time. And I'm a technologist, have started several technology companies in my career. Very, very, I'd say, to summarize, my primary interest is how technology can be used to help people develop skills, change their behavior, learn things. It's been a wonderful journey figuring out how bots can play a role in that. I'm based in the state of Utah, and so great to meet everybody. So I want to start by first just talking about well, there's a lot we can talk about with what's happened since large language models have come into existence. But what I want to say is that a public facing large language model like a Claude or a Gemini or a Copilot or ChatGPT, they're fundamentally, it's a self-guided user experience. That's one way to think of it. So it's sitting there and it's not going to do anything until a user um, engages with it. So, and then when a user engages with it, it's the user's in control of what they want, and what they expect. So that's one thing to point out. Um, and the second thing that I want to point out is that they are in the tech industry terms, they're a non-deterministic technology. So what that means is that if I ask a certain question or have a certain prompt and I get an output, if I were to ask the exact same thing again, there's no guarantee that it'll come back exactly the same. So that's what it's meant by non-deterministic. And if you know how a large language model works with a neural network, it's this statistical probability of, hey, what's the most highly likely word to put in, and there's an algorithm behind it. So the whole technology is non-deterministic because it's intelligent, trying to put together an answer on the fly. And these are I'm just pointing out attributes. I mean, it's amazing technology. I'm sure most of, if not all of us, are relying on LLMs on a daily basis to help us with all sorts of things. So what I at the same time, organizations will often have a need for, so those two attributes where it's self-guided and it's non-deterministic. Sometimes organizations will have a need where they'll want a guided, like the organization wants to drive the user experience versus relying on the user to do it themselves. And then there's also some deterministic elements that sometimes will be a requirement. And so let me give you a couple examples. And this is sort of the setup to show you why we've developed this next generation AI web widget. So let's see, one example could be, let's say that let's take a sales enablement use case. So let's say that I'm a sales rep for corporation XYZ. I could use, I'll use ChatGPT just as the generic LLM term, sort of like using the word Kleenex or Xerox or something like that. Xerox that really dates me, but I think you know what I mean. So let's say that I'm a sales rep. I could use ChatGPT to help me with my job, to say, hey, I'm about to meet this prospect. I want to, figure out how to position my product that I represent versus a competitor. And it will likely do a really good job of that, especially if I give it a really good prompt. It could do a good job of that. But the organization might take exception at the sales rep, myself as a sales rep, to do that. They might prefer that they have AI dictate how our product should be positioned versus our competitor. So that's an example of where an organization might recognize, hey, we actually want to guide the experience versus relying on a public LLM. Another example could be like a customer service. Let's say I'm in a call center and I'm supporting customers. I need help right away. Again, I could use OpenAI or ChatGPT, but more likely a guided experience that the organization has set up is going to be much more helpful and a better solution to ensure that the user experience is what the organization wants. And so those are some two examples of that. And then also organizations will want to manage the entire experience. And so we call this a managed AI environment. And so what does that mean? It means that I want to manage who has access to these guided experiences. And we wouldn't want like our competitors to go in and query our guided experiences. Who is accessing? I want to see who's accessing it. I also may want to see what types of interactions, like what types of questions are my call center reps asking. And there's some privacy and security issues that you would have to develop a policy around. But by and large, the principle is that, hey, we want to see what our people are doing and what they're asking, because that helps identify skills gaps, training gaps. It can help identify where the strengths are and things like that. And we also, organizations want to manage what content is being used, and much of that content can be proprietary, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully that all makes sense. And so the point I'm trying to make is that yes, AI is amazing and it's wonderful, but as a public resource, it's amazing and wonderful. And when an organization want a managed guided experience, they're going to need to build that. And so we have developed this next generation AI widget, and that's what I want to show you today and how it works. And so the idea for these guided experiences that company bots, they deliver a guided user journey when appropriate, having proactive coaching and nudges, making sure that there's a curated and approved content. As appropriate, having structured practice and reinforcement. I'm going to show you an example of this, as well as supporting a rich user profile. And what this means is that would I want our guided experience to answer a question from a sales rep differently than someone in accounting? Some cases, the answer will be, yeah, we'll just give them the same answers. In some contexts, you might want to have it to be very different. An obvious example of that could be like a language preference or a having some geographical sensitivity. So these are some of the attributes that we'll touch on today. All right, so what I'm going to do now, and let me make sure I've got chat up so I can see. So please encourage you to put any questions in the chat. I'll keep an eye on it on this screen. And if there's any questions or comments, I'm happy to take them. All right, so this right here is our web widget, and it can be completely customized, so you can change the colors, all the wording, and all of that. And I'll show you the interface on well, this is the interface to configure the web widget. So I'm going to go back and forth. It looks like a public LLM, and we did that on purpose because there's this, if you provide a guided experience, you're going to want you have to juggle what you're imposing on your learners versus the usability of that user experience. And so this interface is just going to be extremely familiar to folks. And so the difference here is that this is entirely controlled by the organization. So in this case, I created I'll show you how this was built. Yes, and Stephen, you must be looking at my notes somehow, because the next bullet point is to point out that this is single sign-on supported. So that's one way that you can manage the access to the platform. We actually, as a turnkey, we can support single sign-on with Google, Microsoft, LinkedIn, but as a turnkey. But we also have a way to support your internal SSO, which is obviously going to be more desirable for most organizations. Okay, so let's dive into a demo of this. So I'm going to ask a question. Let me ask a question of what is our company's one-on-one framework? So let me just pause before I hit enter here. If I were to ask this question to ChatGPT, it would need a little bit more information to answer this question. So like, okay, what company are you talking about? And then it would have to have access to our company's one-on-one framework, which it may not, because that might be a proprietary piece of content. So there's a chance that ChatGPT would not be able to answer this question, or answer it. It would provide an answer, but you know what I mean. It wouldn't answer it in the way that in the way that this question is intended to be answered. And so what this demo is doing is answering the question, and we'll let it render the answer. But what I'm going to do is go back to the platform where this was configured, and I'm going to try to hit most of the features of our platform throughout the demo today. But for this, I'm going to click on my content tab. And in my content tab, if I scroll over here, I see my knowledge base. And this is a demo, so it's not like a robust, thousands of pages in the knowledge base. But this is the knowledge base and what is being leveraged. And so then I have this one-on-one framework in here for mobile coach. So this is like a proprietary mobile coach database. Just some things to note with this knowledge base. It does give you you can kind of see how many times that a particular knowledge base item has been used, which I think is super helpful. So like if you've got thousands of things in your knowledge base and you wonder, I wonder which of what content do we have that's most accessed, most used? So this we automatically give that for you. But anyway, so when I ask the question, what's our company's one-on-one framework, it's going to go look into the knowledge base and answer the question. So it's given me quite a great thorough answer. So now, how do we create this knowledge base? Well, there are different ways to do it. I can actually come in and create it manually. We also have a way for to upload any internal documents to automatically add to the knowledge base. So let me show you how we do that. So I have this document called, let me just show it to you. Okay, move my window here. Yeah, I've got this PDF. This PDF is an internal document. It's a document that talks about why organizations need guided bots. And let's say that for this demo, which is intended for mobile coach employees, I might say, as an AI coach, someone might want some coaching around guided bots. So I want to add that knowledge into this AI coach. So what I can do is guided bots internal PDF. And I'm going to drag and drop that document in here. Internal white paper on guided bots. And then I could like add different tags and stuff. I won't. I'll just click on process content and apply. And now what it's doing, just using AI, it's going through that PDF. It's turning it into a format that an LLM can read. And it's automatically adding it into my knowledge base. So you can add PDFs, you can add images, you can add PowerPoints, transcripts, and all sorts of content can be supported. So you can see quite easily, you can really build up the knowledge base portion of the brain of your guided bot. So we'll let that crunch. It'll just take a minute to do that. And then we'll come back to it and see how it ends up. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to walk you through. There's a couple questions. Bill, no, it is not strictly text-based, and I'll try to remember to show you how you can add images and videos and documents, and there's some examples of that as throughout the demo. Good question. Yes, Haitham, it is RAG. For those of you that are unfamiliar, RAG is a way to describe, it's an acronym to describe having a curated knowledge base that an LLM draws on. It is fundamentally a RAG, but it's a lot more sophisticated in terms of how it's not just a pure RAG system, because we add system rules, and and you'll hopefully that will become evident as I show you how the whole system works. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you while that is crunching, let me just see how it's doing. Oh, look, it got done. So now you can imagine then you can have a whole library of pieces of content in your system. You can remove them if you want. You can delete them. You can edit them. And then when I go back to my categories, you'll see that I've got this guided bot PDF now as part of my knowledge base. Okay, so the next thing I want to walk you through is this menu that we have down here. And I want to kind of show you, I'm going to talk about the menu in a second, but I'm going to first click on take an assessment. Take an assessment was what I clicked on. So so the instructions here, read each statement carefully, rate how strongly you agree or disagree. Okay, 1 through 5, got it. I feel comfortable making important decisions even when information is incomplete. So this assessment is 10 questions long, so I'm gonna just randomly put in messages or answers while I talk about it. And the so the if you think about like traditional e-learning courses, they are by and large linear experiences, right? Where, okay, I'm going to watch this video, and then I'm going to answer these questions, and then and unlocks the next linear piece of the user experience. We think it's really interesting to turn those linear experiences into conversational user experiences through a bot. There's some really wonderful advantages of that in terms of working backwards from having someone really learn something. And so that is so creating a linear guided experience is a great definition of a guided bot experience. So this is an example of doing that. So I'm going to show you it's cranking out the results of the assessment. But in our platform here, this is an example of, let's see, let me get to that part. Okay, so this is an example of combining a deterministic with a non-deterministic approach. So here is the introduction of the assessment, which you saw a little bit earlier. It's not non-deterministic. We didn't ask AI, hey, create an assessment on the fly and here are the parameters. You could do that, but you can also understand that there'll be many cases where you actually have the assessment all planned out and it's important for it to be the same for everybody. And so that is a deterministic outcome. So here I've got this interface where I can dictate exactly the questions that are being asked one after the other. So you can see questions 1 through 10 here. Now, at this point, I might say, okay, now that I've got this deterministic assessment done, I want to use AI in a non-deterministic fashion to crunch the results. So let's go back and see how what's happened after the assessment. Okay. Oh, you know what? It wasn't. So what happens is when I navigate away, it pauses. Just for our user experience, it pauses. And then when I come back, then it resumes. And what I've done here is that I didn't let it finish the answer about our one-on-ones, and so wanted to finish that. So let me quickly do this again. Oops, that was a typo. Let's see how it treats a 43. For demo purposes, probably a 10 question assessment's too long, but it is an actual assessment and it does have some good assessment results. And so I want to show it to you. So this will just take a minute. Bear with me. Yeah, that's right, Meg. I really emphatically was good at that first question. That's a great point, Bill, about saving on tokens. All right, so let's see. Now I will not navigate away. I'll let it actually finish crunching along. And this now, while we're waiting here, let me just say, if I am part of the example, we got a little bug here. That's interesting. I must have messed this up when I was tinkering with the demo yesterday. So let me just show you what happens. All right, let me go to. So what happens is you do get a assessment result, and then it actually gets emailed to you as a PDF. So which is part of our notifications and supporting other modalities. And so I saved the email so I could show it to you. And here it is. And let me drag it over. Too many windows open. Okay, here it is. So it cranked the, so based on my answers, it gave me this result of the assessment. So this actually displayed on the chatbot. And then it gave me the option to download it as a PDF, and then it emailed it to me. It also gives you the option to say, hey, can I send this to your manager? And then it will email a copy to your manager too. So that is, and the point of that guided experience is that it's, so let's actually go back to the platform. So after the last question is answered, then we have written this this prompt where we give the context of the entire assessment, the answers that the user provided there, like this. You can see that in here. And then we're passing this to an LLM through an API to come back and finish the assessment results. And so this is an example of combining a deterministic user experience that's imposed, that's a linear based imposed, and then creating, using an LLM for a non-deterministic outcome. And then we have a whole notification layer in there to support that. So the part of the, going back to the chat menu here, is that we allow for much more rapid context switching. So so let me show you another example here. Let's go to goal setting. So when I click on goal setting, this is, you can see goal setting is a key part of effective leadership. As a team lead, you can. So it knows that I'm a team lead. And I'll show you. And it also knows a couple things. You can focus on setting clear, actionable goals that align with both your team needs and your own growth as a team lead. Given your programming skills, which it says is my skills are intermediate, and project management experience, which it says it's a beginner, here's one goal that one practical goal could be. So it gives me a suggestion on a goal for my context. So when I go back to the platform and let me just say, so suggesting a goal, and let me just say yes. So going to now the content tab again, we have all these custom fields that can inform the bot this guided experience with high personalization. So I've got, I won't describe all of these, but I have like, you can just see a language preference. You can see the skill competency levels. I think there's one that's a job role, job function. And so if I go to my subscriptions tab, I'm assuming this is going to be me because I just launched this morning. And so you can see my job function is a team lead. And then for my competency levels, it's showing programming intermediate, project manager, beginner. How are these custom fields populated? You can populate them through an API with an HRIS system, with an LMS system. You can populate them through user query. So at the beginning, the bot can say, hey, what's your job function? And then based on the user's answer, it will save that in the custom field. For skill competencies, you can run them through an assessment through the bot and then assess them and then populate the skill assessment. So when you have all those custom fields populated, then all of a sudden this guided experience, this bot can be more highly personalized. And so when I'm creating a goal, it's jumping ahead because it knows more about my context. And so, going back to the comment of context switching, the more that you can take off the plate from the user to have to like, so imagine doing this as just a self-guided experience. You would have to have a pretty sophisticated and highly motivated user to tell ChatGPT, here's my job function, here are my skill competencies. Please help me create a goal. Very doable, but it requires a lot of work and it requires a level of AI literacy. So if you can jumpstart that process for people, so when I go into this menu and click goal setting, it already knows my context. That is, I think, hugely helpful from a context switching perspective. And so um, if I can practice a conversation, these are just examples of context switching. So making an action plan, taking the assessment, which I showed you earlier. You can have a menu full of different tools and activities where you're making it super easy, highly personalized, and helping users jump around. And I think that is another great advantage of having a guided bot experience. Now, next I want to show you where we can embed rules, system rules into the user experience. So, I mean, let's just see how we handle. There's no wrong or right with system rules. It's really what you want and what's best for you. But let's say that, hey, are you programmed to help me with my advanced calculus class that I'm taking in the evenings? Let's just see what it says. So this is really like a business decision that you have to make, like what do you want your guided bot to do? And so we'll see. Yeah, so I'm here to support your growth as a team lead. So while I can't tutor you in advanced calculus, okay, great. Where is that programmed? So where do you put in your system rules? There's a couple places where you would do that. First of all, if I click on my content and API connections, so the mobile coach platform it's really a rules engine, a pretty robust rules engine. And if you want to use an LLM, what's happening is that in the scripting interface, if we go back to that assessment as an example, you can see that I'm passing all these custom fields, these in brackets. These are the custom fields for the answers that I gave to the 10-question assessment. So we're capturing all this context, and then when appropriate, we're packaging it up, sending it to an LLM and asking for an output. And then in often cases, we're saving the output for auditing purposes and for quality assurance purposes as well. So the API connections is where you would set that up. And you can set up APIs with the LLM of your choice. So it could be OpenAI that we've done here. We have, as you might imagine, many people using Gemini, Copilot, Claude. And so when you set that up here, you can set up multiple API connections. But in the API connections, this is where you would embed your master system rules. So this is for this demo, it's pretty simple. You can have system rules actually be highly dense as well. And then in the system rules, you can pass in um, custom field values that we're keeping in our platform. So this context custom field is that in what we've done in all of the rules is that any previous conversation that I'm having with this AI coach is being saved in the custom field context, and that's getting passed every single time. So every time we get an output from OpenAI, it knows everything about the previous conversation that we've had. So that can be really helpful. We're passing in our job function, our job start date. That could be really useful. So if my job start date is yesterday, it'd be nice if the AI coach knows that I'm a newbie. If my job start date's 10 years ago, it can treat me, I can sort of skip some of the basic information. So those are some examples of where you would put your custom, sort of your system rules. And this is where you can put instructions of, hey, if someone asks a question outside of the scope of what we want, then this is how we want you to handle that. And so that's what informed this answer where it politely declined to help me with my advanced calculus class. By the way, I know nothing about calculus. I don't know why I came up with that idea. Um, so, and let me just go back to this subscription mode. So in the subscription mode, you can see all your users. If you have single sign-on enabled, then you would see their names, of course, and who they are. Um, and then we've got a couple things to show you here. Under the sort of, because this is a managed AI practice, you would expect to see who all your users are. You would expect to be able to delete a user or disable a user if you somehow find an unauthorized user. But we also have this ability to audit the entire conversation. So that's the user chat logs. This is a bit technical, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time with it today. But what would you expect to be able to audit? Okay, when the user asks a question, why did the chatbot answer it in the way that it did? So I will go back here later to find the reason for my little bug, how it didn't actually respond to my assessment results. This is what I'll use to troubleshoot that. So I can troubleshoot that and then go and fix things. But also the audit user logs is an audit trail for content. So, hey, a user asks a question, why? And I expected it to use my content source A to answer, but instead I found that it used content source B. Why is that? And so you can go in and see all those reasons and then make appropriate tweaks. So we try to give all these tools for organizations to really control their AI experience. We also have this reporting dashboard where you can run all sorts of different reports. I ran this all messages report yesterday and an API request report. What we like to do is we like to generate these reports, which it's raw data. So the more the data, and this is like a very data savvy crowd, and so you can see we have this all messages reports, just all this raw data with the metadata around each interaction of the bot. And you can actually feed this into AI and do some analysis with it, and that's what we like to do. So you can see you could run all messages reports. So I could ask AI, hey, what are the most common questions that people ask? Tell me a little bit about my audience. Does a great job of doing that. Um, you can run custom fields reports to say, hey, I want to analyze that assessment and how people are answering the questions. Each answer to the question gets saved to a custom field, so I can run a custom fields report on that. I can embed links. I can run link reports. Lots of different ways to analyze your data. In the scripting interface, going back to one of the questions, so in here you can have attach files. So I can have media elements. I can attach media files as well. So I can have video. I can have images. We also support voice to text dictation here. We actually also support voice interaction as well. That's not set up in this demo, but you know, it is one of our channels, so you can support that. So the big part today was to show you this web interface, which is single sign-on. You can brand it, but I also want to mention that there are cases where you might want to put this user experience on Microsoft Teams or put it on Slack. So there's pros and cons to each channel. So it really becomes a design choice of where you want to put the user experience. Because people are so accustomed to this type of interface, there's a huge advantage of that. And if you have single sign-on, then all the better. One thing that it doesn't do very well as a web widget that you would find more native with a messaging platform like Teams or Slack is the ability to send proactive messages. So we have this calendaring option where I can send a pushed reminder or like an activity. So let's say on a Friday, you know, at 12 o'clock, I can program a message to be sent. Say, hey, let's have a coaching session right now. So that can be really helpful in a guided experience. For that to work in a web widget, the web widget would have to be open. And so a lot of people don't have the web widget open all the time. And so if you were to send a message like at noon on a Friday and they didn't have it open and they came back to this AI coach on a Tuesday, then they would see the message when they got back, but it wouldn't be like as timely. So that's another element of a guided experience is sending proactive messaging, but it's not as reliable with a web widget. So let me pause there before I go into my last slide. And let me go back to the chat. Have there been more questions that I've missed here? Let's see. All right. There are a few more questions that looks like I've missed. Okay. Stephen asks, oh, business model questions. Yeah. So, um, we have found that at a high level, the way that our platform works is that we don't have variable pricing with tokens. So there's enterprise user license per end user, and we just sort of embed the variability into that. We sort of take the risk of the variability, not put that on you. That's the case for now. We find that organizations often worry more about overuse of tokens, and in practice, so we've been doing this a long time. Very, very rarely, like extremely rarely, there's a bell curve of expectations, right? To say, hey, there's in the bell curve, there's a small percentage where we've got a user that just is asking a million questions every minute for 24 hours a day. In practice, that we just haven't seen that to be a warranted concern, and so we actually take the risk of the variability of the tokens, and so you just pay an end user fee, and we pay those fees. We do have some organizations who elect to use their own API keys, in which case you take on the token cost. That's really a business choice, up to you. Bill asks, the body of the content section of the prompt is automatically updated by the agent itself for each user, or are there various versions of the prompt created? So yeah, the body of the instructions is the same for the chatbot, but you use those custom fields to allow for the variability per user. Hopefully that makes sense. And so when you see like job function, that's going to be passed in by the user. That context field, which is the biggest variability, is going to pass along my conversation with the bot, not yours. And so that makes it highly personalized. And so you have the shell of the overall instructions, and then you pass in the custom field values, and that's what makes the prompt itself highly variable per user. Great questions. So what I find extremely helpful, and what I take a screenshot of this slide, is there's so much that a guided bot could do, and there's not a single set of best practices across. I mean, there are some best practices, but the point I'm trying to make is that you could have different design decisions based on what you want the purpose of your bot to do. So if I'm trying to support a sales rep answer prospect questions on the fly, that could be very different from a micro learning course that I want my bot to do, like extremely different. And so what channel that you choose, what your system rules turn out to be, how much deterministic elements are in your bot vary quite greatly based on those requirements. And so what we have found is this set of questions is a great set of questions to ask yourself. What's the main purpose of the bot? Who's the target audience? Where do you want the bot to live? Where's the content going to come from? So depending on the purpose of the bot, you might have mountains of content that you need. In other cases, it just might be 3 or 4 PDFs that you might need. Are there going to be personalized outbound reminders? What guardrails are going to be important? How will you measure success? That's a really key question. And what systems need to be integrated? In some cases, you'll say, hey, this can be a standalone bot. In other cases, you might say we really need to pass in information from our LMS or our CRM or our HRS system for this bot to be functional. And so what I have found is if you can answer these questions, it actually becomes a great internal memo for stakeholders, an internal memo for requirements to get those stakeholders on board. It helps you scope out, hey, we're going to need $500 for this bot, or we're going to need $200,000 for this bot, or something in between. This can be done on a weekend, or hey, we need a team of 6 people to build this bot. It can be all that variability. This is a great way to nail down what you need. It also turns it's great. It becomes a great platform to have conversations with internal stakeholders, because oftentimes if you say, hey, we want an AI bot, all of these alarm bells might ring with people who have their own assumptions of what an AI bot's supposed to do. And based on the answers to these questions, you might say, no, actually, we just need this AI bot to do this very narrow task. And so this answering these questions it makes it easy to turn into a memo to make that more clear. So I find this to be a highly helpful resource for folks. So Bill says, how do we measure success? The question everyone asks, some answer, but no one actually creates the tooling to collect and measure. Yeah, I think what I often tell people, I tell people a version of what Bill has just said. But I also add that right now you might only be tooled to take qualitative feedback, and that could be fine for phase one, to say, hey, we're going to poll everyone that's used our AI coach, and we're going to just ask them how they use this modality, how they like this modality versus other modalities. And if we find that they like it, then that's how we're going to measure success for phase one. But just know with the mobile coach platform, you're going to get engagement numbers automatically. So you can compare that to open rates when you send out reminder emails for learning journeys. And if those reminder emails have links to different internal resources, you probably have some measurement of how learners engage with that stuff, so you can compare. So there are some data that you can get that you can use as as a a resource for some quantitative measurement. But to Bill's point, a lot of times it is going to start with a qualitative measurement of success. But regardless, even if it is qualitative can be hugely valuable. And I still think it's important to state up front to say, realistically, this is what we're going to get, and this is how we're going to measure success. So I would not skip that question. Hey, we always like a little snark, Bill, so no problem. All right, so hopefully that was helpful. Are there any other questions that I can ask? You're very informed group. The questions that came in were excellent. Very smart questions. But any other questions? Those are, yep. If we're not connected on LinkedIn, please, I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. I talk about chatbots on LinkedIn and share a bunch of other stuff. So I would love to connect with you and see what you're sharing as well. But happy to answer any other questions. If not, Meg, I think that's a wrap.
All right. Yeah, we'll let people move on to the next thing in their day or have a quick break. We all need a quick break here or there. I was just going to say, Vince, I appreciate the guided chatbot nature of this and how, it puts some guardrails around it and is not just, hey, you just start using ChatGPT and I was thinking about, like uploading the resources and how it's like I could upload resources to ChatGPT, but then they're not available to everybody else in the organization. And having a solution that can do so much more and have the auditability, and it just seems so much more powerful than what's available for each individual user. So appreciate you sharing that with us. Thanks, everyone, and we will catch up with you all at either in the fall for spotlights, or if you are coming to Ann Arbor in a couple of weeks, we'll see you, and we'll see you, Vince, very soon for This Party is Lit. Thanks, everyone. Bye.